Top 5, bottom 5. This is a real interesting one because it's a loss. We lost by 14. This was a really hard list to make because I liked a lot of what I saw, and it's like the things we did bad. It's kind of out of our control. You know, there's a couple things we could have done better in the past where we had the depth to hang. I feel like we did have the depth to hang. We still have the QB, but we need a positive note. So let's start with the number 5 in the top 5. This team was very competitive. People were telling me after that Texas A&M game, even going into that A&M game, that the team had completely quit. Billy was 100% going to be fired, which he still might be fired. We'll get into that. But I was told this team had quit, but that's just not true at all. Maybe we see it now that Lagway might be out for the remainder of the season or a couple games or whatever. Maybe we see it. But man, this team really likes Billy Napier. They really like playing for this guy. You got to give him credit for that. How many teams have we seen that are starting 1-2, blowout losses? They're about to go into probably the toughest stretch in college football history. That doesn't include postseason games or conference championship games. And still put up a fight that most teams couldn't, even if they're having good seasons. I feel like that deserves a ton of credit, and I'm going to give him credit as a number 5 spot. Number 5, this is even honest, man. I talked about it earlier. We just got to go with the turf, man. The grass they use, Everbank Field. Man, what can I say? I'm a Jags fan, and it's like I don't see as many injuries, but those NFL players, they get used to it playing on that turf. What's that? Okay. They get used to it. But goodness me, that took out everybody. At the start of the third quarter, it felt like 4 straight plays. The Gators, or I think one of them was Georgia, where a player had an ankle or a leg injury of some sorts. I talked how this turf or grass was incidentally made at the University of Georgia. My voice is still not the best from the game, but that's the bottom 5. The turf, it's crazy to blame a field for a loss. But if Lagway if there's a better turf, because you could see when Lagway cuts, the turf kind of gives out on him. That could be the difference between a win and a loss right there. Number 4 on the good. So this could be number 1. He was this player because I tried to keep it away from players. But, had an over 87 grade on PFF. Aaron Gates, oh my goodness. I talked before this game about maybe we have a starting battle between Aaron Gates and Sharif Denson. But honestly, I think Gates has proven that he should be the starter. And it's not the fact that Denson's bad. It's the fact that Denson's probably a 7 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10 right now. Gates is playing like a 9 out of 10 who can only grow higher. His potential is through the roof, and he's definitely proven that he should be the starter. When he got his interception, that first down, he got a TFL on the running back in a great open field solo tackle. Or not open field, but a great solo tackle that we've seen our players miss all the time. The second down, there was a fit. He gets back there, and as part of the TFL on their screenplay, ends up getting called back because Desmond Watson, his hand is so big that I think he grabs the jersey and face mask at the same time. Although I feel like his arm was under the face mask, so it's kind of weird right there. I don't know, but he was part of that tackle, and he didn't commit the face mask. So that would have been another TFL for him. And then he gets to pick. He reads the QB's eyes well, and I don't know what Beck saw. Maybe Beck couldn't see over the 400-pound defensive linemen that are 6'6" in front of him, so we didn't see Gates just crouching behind him. And then Gates just goes off, picks that ball with ease, has a great return too. I talked about it. Has both of his parents were athletes, and he's a Gator. I think they were Gator alums as well. So he is well deserving of this spot. He honestly should be number 1, but I didn't want to put the players that high individually because I felt like it's a great team effort. Number 4. So I talk about this kind of how we just went back with us being very competitive. Are we going to see the same competitiveness throughout the rest of the season? I mean, that's a tough loss, a rivalry game where you win this game. There's no reason that theoretically you could win now. I'm not saying we would, or I'm not saying I would even pick that. But I mean, if you can beat Georgia and looked like the team could do it, then you could beat Texas, you could beat LSU, you could beat Ole Miss, you'll easily beat FSU. I mean, goodness. But this kind of might kill the team type because we don't know how this offense is going to go out there and look. We don't know who's going to be playing on offense. So the defense, even if they come out hype, I mean, just like this Georgia game, they got wore out because they were on the field forever. I mean, maybe you keep it close in the first half with Texas, which I'll get into later with my predictions. But then there's just going to be a point where it's just your body's physically unable to. You're mentally exhausted. I mean, Texas is still a really good team with a lot of athletes, so maybe better offensive athletes, probably better offensive athletes than Georgia. At points, we'll get into that. But number 3, I don't know if anyone would have predicted that this would be on here at this point in the season and this point in Billy's tenure. I'm going to give it to coaching. I mean, this coaching staff had this team ready to play Georgia. As he said, the early offensive drives, they were a slip away from maybe this game being a 2-score game before Lagway gets hurt. I mean, they had him ready. They had him prepared defensively for what Georgia was going to do offensively. We rattled Beck early on. The offense rattled their defense a bit early on, hit the deep ball. A lot of people were comparing it to Steve Spurrier when we got the first interception and then play action touchdown, the first play. A lot of things people had complained about Napier, so I'm going to give him credit for that. Damn. So I'm going to give him credit for that. Defensive coordinators Austin Armstrong and Ron Roberts, I'm going to give them credit for it. We've seen it many times where this Georgia offense just maybe we get a stop because of pure luck. But I mean, they were getting multiple stops to the point where you can't say, oh, it's a fluke. They were getting stops to the point where you say, man, this Georgia defense is good. We've seen it the past month. We're seeing it now. This Georgia defense can hang with the best of them. Number 3. So number 3 is depth. This is hard to say because here's the thing. If you're missing, like we're already, before the season started, we're missing our technically third string, but that person gets a ton of playing time, nose tackle Jamari Lyons. So coming into the season, you're already missing a player who was really good as a freshman last year. But man, the team is just so hurt. As like I have to put depth on here because I mean it honestly wasn't a lot of bad. I'm not gonna blame Warner for how he plays. Like, I mean, I just had to put depth on there because it really was probably the biggest coaching mistake you could have made. I mean, I don't know how many teams in the country that has 6 cornerbacks they can trot out there against Georgia or any Power 5 school where they're going to feel comfortable. Don't know how many teams have 3 valuable starting QBs that can go out there and beat Georgia. Like, I'm just going to say it. I don't know if you put Oregon in the spot that Florida was at, where Dylan Gabriel goes down and then Dante Moore goes down, where they're having to play Austin Novosad, that he's going to go out there and be able to beat Georgia. So I will say one thing that Warner did, besides the interception, he didn't really put the ball in harm's way. He didn't lose us the game until the point where he had to win it for us. So that is one plus I will give him. Yeah, I'm sorry for drinking. It's just my voice, man. Number 2, I'm going to give it to the offensive line, man. I mean, the unit as of a whole, our tight ends blocked pretty poorly in this game. Don't want to say them, but like their grading wise, they were pretty bad, especially Arliss. Hayden Hansen, I mean, you're a tight end, he's a blocking tight end in particular, so you would like for him to block better, but he is blocking some of the best linebackers and defensive ends in the country. So I will give him some credit there, or some leeway there. But the offensive line, they didn't give up too much pressure until we had to put in Aiden Warner, where Georgia started getting all the momentum. That's when they were able to start getting pressure and confuse the transfer out of Yale walk-on guy. So I'm going to give the offensive line a ton of credit. Even when we got that touchdown with Warner in, it was really all because of that offensive line playing great. We got some great blocking from Elijah Badger on that touchdown run. Badger blocks 2 guys and allows Jackson to cut into the end zone for a touchdown. So I'm just going to give the O-line a lot of credit. I thought they blocked well early on, too, when Lagway had the ball. And then if Lagway stays in the game, it does add more of a threat with him running, so the defensive line can't just focus on the running back. He really changes that game so much. But I'm going to stay with where I was. Got to give the offensive line all the credit. Not all the credit, but a lot of the credit. Number 2. This puts Florida in a really interesting position here. Because you look at it, as much as I talk about how well we have played the past month of football, starting with that UCF game, it's like, man, that's a team that, if this is the team that started the year, we're probably not looking at a 4-4 start. Maybe we're probably looking at us beating A&M, because A&M didn't really play insanely crazy that game. But like, that's probably a win against this team. But you have to look at it. This puts the administration, the boosters, the athletic director in an interesting spot for they have to decide to keep Napier or not. Because here's the thing. I had Donnie, the comment, he said earlier, we're going to have a really good team next year. Which could be true. I do kind of lean that way on what it could be. But it's also like, man, if this team just loses so many more games, to where you have a coach who has 3 straight losing seasons, and including back-to-back 5 and 7 seasons. Recruiting class is already in the dumps. Can you keep him? Can you look in the mirror and say, man, just because we have the potential to be good next year, I don't know how the end of the season is going to play out. I'll get into that. But, man, it really makes it a really difficult job on these guys. Because no matter the decision they make, there's going to be flack. They're going to get hated on for it. They don't fire him especially. There's already fans who, even if you point out the good things in this team, they're just going to knock it off as we still lost. Because to some people, all that matters is your record, and they don't care about the future. They just care about what already has happened. Well, I mean, Donnie says it right here. Tough schedule. Y'all stay tough. It will pay off next year. I mean, what if we keep Billy and players do transfer? I mean, I'll get into that. I don't want to get into that now. Number 1 is the defense for good. This is a pretty easy pick. I mean, man, this defense was so bad at the beginning of the season. Even that Mississippi State game where we won, I'm not going to say that we won that game, so that's where we started looking better. We did not look good against Mississippi State that much. I mean, we looked all right, but like we did not look this good against Mississippi State. But man, this defense just keeps getting better and better. They're probably facing the best offensive line they've played so far. Maybe Miami better. I mean, maybe Miami is better, but like Georgia's definitely the most talented offensive line they've played so far. And we were still getting pressure. We were still making a bunch of nice run stops. We were still getting TFLs. In the past 4 games, this team has 8 interceptions. I'm pretty sure all of last year we only had 3. I mean, man, you just got to give this defense all the credit in the world. The game, we're having a backup QB who isn't doing anything. And the defense still goes out there and gets 3 and outs and gets stops, gives the offense a chance to stay in this game. So you just got to give your flowers to the defense. And I'm going to be really intrigued how this defense ends the year. Because I think this defense ending the year on a good note, even if the record might not signify it, will really tell the future of this program under Billy. Number one, the bad. I mean, there's really no other options than injuries. I mean, I already told you guys earlier. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a strength and conditioning thing because, like, getting these legs injuries on this field, it was happening with Georgia too, and it happening with so many players. Maybe they need to hit legs more or something. I don't know how that works. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree in sports medicine, but the injuries really killed us, and really, I'm not going to say lost us the game because this is still the second best team in the country. So we still could lose this game even without these injuries. But really took away from us the chance to see this team at its best. I'll say that.